Hey good people, so I once again have let a couple of weeks slip by between videos. Things are coming in a bit slower than they were stateside for a couple of reasons. One, I'm splitting my time between this and other work, and secondly, I finally got my whole family over here, so we've been doing some reunion trips. It took me 6 months to get my wife a full visa, UK visa, which I won't get into. It was annoying, but we got that done. So yeah, just been concentrating on other things. Anyway, I got a cello in, and I just thought to take you around this cello. It's not something I feature too much on this channel, but I thought to take you around it and show you the things to look for on such an instrument. So I'm going to give you some shaky cam time here. Bear with me. So here it is. So this is a probably early 20th century Czech or German cello. It's quite nice. It's solid spruce top, pretty well done, and maple back and side, so it's all the proper woods, as you can see there. It's all together. There's no gluing to do. There's no seams open. There's no cracks. So it's actually comes to me in good, reasonable condition. It's even got ebony pegs on it, which fit well. The strings are okay, and they're off-brand Chinese. Maybe super sensitive or something worse, but otherwise okay. So the issues on this cello, firstly, is you can see there the action is really high. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, the fretboard, you probably can't see it on here, scoops down. So I'm going to have to plane some of that out and make it so it doesn't sort of nosedive, leaving that gap. The second thing is this bridge is fit really poorly. The tough thing about fitting violin and cello bridges is the feet have to fit the contours of the top. There can't be any gaps. You can see here there's gaps, even more on this side. Let me see if I can go around to this side. You see that massive gap there? That's no good. And the contours of the feet need to be closer. In other words, there's too much wood down here. These need to fit much tighter and closer, lowering the action of the bridge. Then the bridge has to be reshaped according to the string height. So it's much like doing a saddle on a guitar. However, you're dealing with a much bigger piece of wood than on a saddle, and you're dealing with a piece of maple. So the bridge has been very, very poorly fit. It's more or less a blank that's been shoved under there. Needs a lot more refined work. And this should come down to about here, making it much easier to play. This is way too high. Other things I notice on this cello, there's no fine tuners on the tailpiece, so we'll get some of those. It's much easier to tune if you can use fine tuners down here, so you're not always tuning with the pegs. You get the pegs close, and then you dial it in with these little metal fine tuners down here. But as you can see, the top is decent. There are no cracks all over the instrument. A lot of times you get cracks in this F hole area where there's less wood, so it's much weaker in construction. But there are no wing cracks or anything on here. Those are what you see there are scrapes. This was probably a school cello. It probably got abused by students. There's no real cracks. There's no corners knocked off anywhere. So it's actually really good shape. Let's have a look at the back, the sides. You can see this is flamed maple, as it should be. No real issues with the construction. The neck is not coming away from the mortise or anything like that. Let's look at this pretty back here. This is flamed maple 2-piece. You can see the book match there. Nice flame. Some scratches, but no real issues with the cello. which is good. That means a lot less work. Everything I have to do on this is just setup work. Also didn't come with a bow or a case, so I might find a cheap bag, a fiberglass bow with horsehair. Don't like the synthetic hair, it's awful. It doesn't play or act right. I don't encourage kids to learn on anything but real horsehair bows. By the way, the horses aren't killed for the horsehair. I think it's farmed in a way. They cut hanks off rather than killing the horses, so you don't have to worry about that. There's the back of the scroll. Pegs don't quite match, but they are all ebony. I'm not so sure about this fretboard. A lot of times they use maple or other hardwood and stain it to look like ebony. And the way you can tell if it's not ebony is if you go underneath. You can see there, that's underneath the bridge. It's light brown where they didn't stain. So this is not ebony. This is lightly maple or some other hardwood, boxwood or something, that's stained black with India ink or something similar to look like ebony. So if you get an instrument like this, a violin or a cello, and you're not sure if you've got real ebony fittings, look on the back side and that'll clue you in, because usually they don't stain the backs because they've got to glue the wood down. That's a good indicator of whether you've got a real piece of ebony or not. Most people who've done this for a while can just tell. Their eyes are trained and they can see fake ebony a mile away. But if you're new to it, this here obviously is not ebony. Ebony doesn't do that. So this is also painted black. This probably could be replaced. This is not a very good tailpiece. You could get an aluminium one with the built-in tuners. I think you can get them as little as 12, 14, 15 pounds or dollars on eBay. So there's no reason to stick with one of these. But you can get the fine tuners that just fit in here that make it a little bit more tunable. But the main issue with this cello is this. This is a very poorly cut bridge. And it will not suffice. It won't sound good. It's not good for the top to have gaps here as well. It puts pressure in the wrong places. You can develop cracks. Also, there's a sound post that sits right about here that joins, it's just friction fit, and it joins the top to the bottom plate. And the sound post, as the name suggests, transfers sound reverberation from the back plate to the front plate, resonating the whole cello. So this dowel that's in here, that's loose, just friction fit between top and bottom, is really, really important for the sound. You have a bass bar on this side, which increases the bass. The bass string is right above it. And then you have a sound post on this side. Those are two important features for the sound, but the sound won't transfer properly if you've got this kind of gap in the foot of the bridge there. So this almost defeats everything by having this poorly fit. I suspect this bridge slipped and fell down. You can see scrapes here where it probably slid. The back legs came up and it fell down, and then you can see the scrapes from the top. So it's probably had a couple of accidents while it was in school service or something. But you see the rudiments of this cello are all here. This is a solid carved instrument. It's not plywood. So it's worth restoring. And the fact that this is not ebony, it's not great, but it can be reshaped and restained. This can be replaced. This can be better fit or replaced. And then you've got everything else here for an absolutely fine working instrument. Completely fine. The sound post is intact. Let's see if we can show you a shot inside. I'm not going to be able to show you, am I? Let's go in this way. This is going to give you terrible seasickness, but there you go. You can see looking in the side, there's that dowel that's friction fit, and it is standing straight, connecting the front and back plates. So it's there to do its job, but this is defeating it here. This poorly fit bridge. So this is all the things I look at when I find such an instrument as this. It's a bit more complex than a guitar. It's the same idea, principles. You've got a box that needs to resonate. You've got strings, you've got a connection point here and here that need to be tight, so that you get full dimensions of sound out of the instrument. You have a tailpiece of some sort. Often in a guitar, these two pieces are the same, or in the same piece of wood or same plane, unless you have a trapeze tailpiece on a guitar, in which this is exactly the same principle. You do have an end pin on this, because the spike comes out to raise the cello to your height specifically. This one's just fine. It's not the best, but it functions. It comes out and will suffice for an end pin. You can replace it, they're not that expensive. It's a bit of a job. Another thing that I would replace on this, you see this metal tailpiece tie there? That's old style. I don't use those anymore. They rust. They also dig in and do more damage to the instrument than they need to. So now we get these ones that are nylon coated. They're black, and you can buy those and put them on any tailpiece. They're pretty easy to install. So this probably needs to be replaced. If I find a better tailpiece than that, I will just replace the whole thing with this intact. If not, I will do it separately. But as you can see, everything else is here for this to be a fine functioning instrument. A bit more know-how, possibly experience is needed to take these on. There are less experts around, particularly on YouTube. So it's going to be a bit more of a challenge, I think, than most guitars, but with some patience and humility and willingness to learn, there's no reason why people can't learn how to do bowed string instruments. If you have some expertise in guitar setup or woodworking skills, it's going to help you. However, I sometimes find that guys that are really good on guitars, that try to transfer the way of doing guitars directly to a bowed string instrument, is often a hindrance, because it is a whole different world. It's sort of like the soccer coaches in the US that I came across when my kids were young, who were basketball coaches, and they tried to transfer basketball principles to the soccer or football pitch. It just doesn't work. You can't do full court presses and things like that. It's just a different game. It's a different sport. It's a different area of play. Different amount of substitutions. You can't just take basketball and model soccer or football around it. And it's the same with this. Yes, it's the same principles as a guitar. Guitar skills may or may not help you in moving over to a bowed string, but there are some things you need to learn to do on these instruments that you will not have done working on guitars. Mainly fitting bridge. This is one of the hardest things to do in all the setup, and I include all instruments. Fitting bridge feet, as any of you know, is very, very difficult and meticulous. It takes time. You can't have gaps. You can't have bits sticking out. You've got to get it right. The instrument won't sound right, won't perform right, and is liable to cause damage on the top if you don't do it right. You very rarely have to do stuff like that. Occasionally, on a pre-war guitar, you'll find a bridge of some sorts where you'll have to fit to shape the contour of the guitar, but it's not a common thing. So yeah, here you go. This is a cello that came in. I'm just showing you my observations and what needs to be done in this video, and glad to be back. Hopefully I'll have more videos following this one. Okay, take care.